So, Gary, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and, what you do.
Sure. I'm Gary Lehndorff. I am a home loan consultant with Univest Home Loans. And if you never heard of Univest, because maybe you're in Chester County or Delaware County, we're not a huge presence. We've been around 143 years. And I've been with them since 2013. I've been in the industry for 20 years. And I love it there. It's a good company. A lot of support in the back office. They know what they're doing. And so I'm the guy that can help you get a loan when you're buying a home, refinancing a home, building a home, renovating a home, any of those.
So what's your main thing? Like, I would say, hey, what's your automatic shot? Which one are you going to knock down every time?
Yeah, the purchases, it's just people want to buy a home. I'm the guy that I kind of a hand holder, like to try to make it easy for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And of course, right now, since the rates dropped back in the spring, refis they're just overwhelming. They're just coming in like crazy. But there's a lot of people out there that still haven't done it. So that's a close second to the purchases. I like to help people buy homes, particularly first-time buyers, but I can help just about anybody.
What do you like about first-time home buyers?
They need somebody to guide them through it that's willing to take the time to explain it in a way that they understand it and not just say it and then move on. I always say, are you okay with that? Do you understand that? A lot of people say no.
No.
Let me try it another way, because I want to make sure you understand. You're buying a house. It's a big deal. I want to make sure you understand everything that's going on. So I like that hand holding.
So do you find like more people are just like, hey, Gary, like do your thing. I trust you. And then just like call me when I sign, or more people that are like, hey, I really want to understand this. And
everybody's got different personalities and ways they process. If they need it to be explained, it's like deeper. Mm-hmm. Tell me what you need to know and I'll help you with it.
Do you like a ton of questions and go way down the rabbit hole with you, or do you prefer people to know enough, or do you get nervous when people ask you nothing?
No. A lot of people have done the research, so they're up to speed. They get the process. They'll ask me things that nobody ever asks me. There's so much information out there that people can get online. So if they don't ask me a lot of questions, I'll say, are you comfortable with all this? Do you get what's going on? If they say, yeah, then I'll trust that they do. And if they don't, obviously it's simpler if I don't have to spend as much time, but it's part of what I do. It's the biggest purchase anybody ever makes in their lifetime. So I don't want them coming to closing going, gee, I didn't understand that at all. It's like, well, I want to make sure you understand it so you get the closing and it's the party, not where you get blindsided and say, oh, is that what that means? No, that's not good for anybody.
So let me ask you this. So knowing that you're talking about, you like to help a lot of first timers and, people new into the process, what's like the number one thing that they ask you or they need to know or even that they don't know?
Gee, that's a good question, Kirk. Well, they always want to know, what's it going to cost me to do it, and can I afford this? Sure. You know what a lot of people do? They'll come out of the chute and say, tell me how much I can afford. Mm-hmm. Always come back to them when I say, you don't want me to tell you how much you can afford, because the industry will tell you can afford 50% of your gross income. Mm-hmm. Say, I don't know about you, but last time I had an opportunity, I wasn't able to spend my gross income. So, I'll kind of talk them off the ledge. It's like, tell me what would fit in your budget as a comfort zone. Are you paying rent? Where do you pay? Does that work for you? And then I dig deeper to try and get to the bottom of where they really want to be. And then they understand it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where part of the trust comes in, because I had somebody call me today that they said that the guy they talked to he felt like he just kept trying to upsell them because he's going to make more money on it. It's like, well, 6 months after the euphoria of the new home has worn off and you're saddled with this payment that you can't really afford. Mm-hmm. It's not in your budget. You can't go out to dinner. You can't have a life. I don't want you upset with me because they let you buy it. So I try to be upfront with people and explain that to them. If you don't know, let me tell you what your debt to income is based on what I'm seeing and how that fits in with the norm. And does that fit in with your budget? And if you don't have a budget, gee, maybe it's a good idea that you kind of look into that, and not count on me to tell you, hey, I'll qualify you for this, because that's never a good idea.
Do you find that people can really track you on that conversation between, what's affordable and what you can be approved for, if you will?
Yeah, most of the time they do. And some people will push it and they'll still say, yeah, but I want to know the maximum I can afford. Like,
Hmm.
hey, I'll tell you that.
Hmm.
Tell you that you can afford this much if you want. But remember, if
Hmm.
this is what your net income is, this is all that's going to be left when all is said and done, just so you understand it. And if they do, I mean, sometimes people want to push the envelope because they know that they're in an industry or career track that they're going to be seeing a lot more money next year and the next year. So they don't mind being a little overextended the first time around. And if that's their comfort zone, I'm not going to talk them out of it. That's up to them. I
Well,
just find, I'm
that's
sorry.
really consulting. I mean, that's really consulting and helping
Well,
them, right?
that's what we both do. Yeah. Yeah. A big part of this is consulting them. Yeah. With them.
Making
Yeah.
them understand. Do you find, and obviously, I want to ask you, do you find that what's your level of expectation for someone that's coming to you through their realtor versus on their own, and what their level of understanding of all this thing? Do you find that, like, right now, the realtors are just throwing people at you and see what's coming back? Do they depend on you for this entirely? Do you prefer them to depend on you for this entirely? How do you operate that? If that
Well,
makes sense.
all realtors are different. I know you're pretty good at kind of screening people up front. You have a handle on where they stand. A lot of realtors just say, hey, I'm not even going to talk to you or show you a house until you call Gary. And then I
Okay.
talk to them. And then they're complete. They don't know anything at all. And either way is fine with me. I mean, I figure I'm more of the expert in what I do
Sure.
than the realtor typically is in my field.
Mhm.
You're an expert at what you do. I'm not going to
Mhm.
try and
Absolutely.
tell people what you do. Just the
Mhm.
overview general, I know what it is, but vice
Mhm.
versa. So I've seen both ways.
So you've seen it both ways, and
Yeah.
so, but it's good to have a backstop like that, right? Because I,
Oh
I
yeah.
personally, I don't see every lender even having that conversation.
Yeah.
Some of the lenders just, hey, let's go to my online app, let's throw you through DU, which is desktop underwriting for those that don't know, which is the computer. And then we'll throw you in the computer and see what comes out, and then we'll throw you back to your realtor, and then we'll go from there. you know? So
Yeah,
that
that
I,
makes it sound too simple. It's not. It's not that simple. And honestly, I have an online app.
mhm,
Say 10% of my clients use it, and I know it's more efficient.
mhm,
We have meetings about it that, hey, you can get have people do that. It will save time.
mhm,
Yeah, but then I'm not talking to people. If they're doing that, I'm not having the conversation up front that I like to. So
mhm.
sometimes it's just more convenient for people. And then I'll have the conversation after it's in there and I'm reviewing it. And then I'll go over what they put in with them and say, help me understand this. Like
Mhm.
I'm kind of a checklist kind of guy. I've got a summary sheet of things that I want to go through with people generally.
So, so let me ask you this before I let you go.
Yeah.
What is the one thing about lending and about getting a mortgage? And I mean, I'm sure there's more than one, but the biggest one, because I mean, I know I've got a big one on a lot of different questions, but the biggest one, the one that you think people should know, you think they should know by now, or you're shocked every time they don't know. Like, what do people not know about getting a mortgage that you really wish more people like me would tell them, or more people like you or somebody would tell them? you know
Probably a lot of it is just the come ons. There's so much marketing out there online, pop ups, stuff everywhere. And there's no name online banks that
Mhm.
want you to call them. And inevitably, I'll get the call. It's like, hey, I saw online that Joe's mortgage has, and it's a rate that just nobody has. We know where the market is, generally speaking.
Mhm.
So the people just don't know that if you do that, it's a come on, so that you'll make the phone call and it's not going to be what they said it's going to be. Once they, credit, LTV, ability to pay, all that stuff, it's just not going to be what they think it is. And it's an online bank. I'm the guy that comes to closing and sits next to you and goes through the paperwork with you. You're not going to have any of that. So there's a lot of risk. So it's better to deal with somebody that's recommended to you. There's a lot to be said for that. And people just don't understand that. That's the one that rubs me the wrong way every time I get that question. But I understand, because I would probably ask it too. Say, hey, I saw this. Is there any truth to it? People just don't know.
So what you're saying is you would wish that people would pay a little more attention and not click so many buttons online for some of these things, and really know that maybe if they hit a button and, like, hey, is sending your credit to many lenders to compete a good idea?
No.
It could hurt your score, right?
Within reason, it can, within a certain window. Yeah.
And you got to be careful sometimes, I think, because I assume that some people could take a five point credit hit, but if you're on the line, might not be the right call or something. Is that an accurate statement, you think? Or
Most people are, the majority of my clients are not pass or fail that close. So I'm not too worried about that. It's more about people going in and feeling like they've got a handle on where the market is because of something they saw online that has nothing to back it up. That's not a company they ever heard of. I'm saying you should deal with people and name companies that not just an online presence and hope for the best.
right.
Because when push comes to shove, you're buying a house and it's the day before closing, and there's this guy out in Kansas that's got this company you never heard of, and he says, hey, I'm not going to have your money tomorrow. What are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do? Right. There's nobody to talk to. There's nobody even to give a futile complaint to.
No, no, not at all.
Well, that's good to know. So, Gary, I appreciate you being here. How can people kind of connect with you if they're interested in hearing more about anything you said here about having the right amount of whatever money, getting answers on getting a mortgage?
Well, they could call me at my office, or they could email me, or they could go to my website through Univest at www.garylehndorff.com.
Come.
To think, because I'm univest.net. Yeah, my email address is .net. Yeah.
What's your number to reach you?
It's 484-983-3581.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I appreciate you answering some of these questions, Gary.
Good questions. Thanks for the good questions. You put some thought into it. I appreciate it, Kirk.
Yeah, I absolutely appreciate you coming and creating this video with me, and hopefully we can get some great information out there to my YouTube channel.
Awesome.